so many things to do all at one time, isn't it? All right. And we are live, folks. This is Sherman Ray, Black Success Magazine, the podcast. Happy Monday, everybody. And it is Thanksgiving week, so we're just excited to be here today. Hopefully everybody's already gotten all the stuff that they need. Because if right now you are still trying to shop for Thanksgiving, you are going to be, I don't know, you're going to be rushing. Hey, before we start, I want to apologize for the show on Friday's broadcast. If you got the podcast, it's fine. You know, the podcast's fine. But if you were on YouTube, you probably got just this really weird earful of stuff. And so, you know, every once in a while our volumes aren't right. And it's funny because I think that we're doing like just fantastic sometimes. And it just doesn't work. So, you know. But pick up the podcast. You can go to Anchor.fm. You can go to Spotify. You can get Black Success Magazine podcast. They're all over the place. Anywhere, actually, just Google us. Google Black Success Magazine podcast, and you can get us. Today, we are going to talk about the importance of big thinking. Okay, we're going to give you 4 tips on the importance of big thinking. And if you stick around to the end, I've got some really cool stuff for you too. And we're really talking about thinking, because really, as we go into 2021, you got to get your mind straight. You just got to get it all out there. So, so for those of you, this might be the first time you're watching us, either on Facebook or on YouTube or something like that. I'm Sherman Ray. I'm your host for Black Success Magazine podcast. I'm the editor of Black Success Magazine, and so, you know, we publish stuff all the time on, you know, motivation, business, tech, all that kind of stuff. So we really try to keep it as relevant as we possibly can, because we believe that as business owners, as people on a success journey, that we all need to continue just to move forward and just do fantastic things. But we all need a little bit of you need somebody to motivate you all the time. So let me be your cheerleader, Monday through Friday, about 8:30 in the morning. And kind of like the Dallas Cowboys today, I'll be cheerleading them on again. They won again this weekend, which is great. So anyway, we won't get on that. So let's talk about 4 important tips for big thinking on Black Success Magazine, the podcast. Have you ever been in a situation where you just thought that I wish my neighbors would just quit playing that stupid music? You know what I mean? And we all have neighbors. We all have those neighbors who just play music, and you know, all you can do is fixate on that neighbor, fixate on what they're doing, and you just can't seem to get your head around it. Well, instead of finding the good in whatever's going on, we're so fixated on that negative thing that's happening that we're not learning a lesson. Even last night, I did this. We're all going through COVID right now, and I heard something that happened as a result of our state governor, and he said something on how he's going to attack this COVID pandemic. And the first thing I thought was, I was like all upset about it. And then I thought about this. I said, you know what? I can't go to bed like this, though. I just can't go to bed like this and feel like I'm going to actually have good dreams and stuff like that. So I flipped the switch. That's my new term now. I flipped the switch, and I left a message on Facebook, and I was asking people, what do they think is the state dog of our state? And so that way, and my mind was thinking about good things. Since I was already fixating on something already, I might as well use my mind for something good. That's putting things in perspective. And we've got to put things in perspective in life, and we can't just, be so fixated on myopic things, little minuscule things, that we don't see the big picture in life. As we look at kind of the what we're going to be looking at today, That's one of the things we'll also be looking at. Is, are we looking at the big picture in life? Are we thinking big, or are we thinking small? So I'm going to give you 4 tips on thinking big. And there's a guy who wrote an article. His name is Sergey Orshansky, and he wrote an article, really very cool article, where he was talking about the Russian, how Russia was invaded by Napoleon, and how Napoleon was so fixated on trying to capture Moscow that the generals that were in Moscow at the time had a bigger picture though, and they were willing to sacrifice Moscow in order to win the war. And so he kind of couches his whole idea in this. So let's look at point number 1. Focus on the consequences of everything you do first. Napoleon focused on the important part, capturing Moscow, but nobody could accuse him of thinking small. Yet he overlooked that the Russian army could still fight even after giving up the country's most important city. Success expert Brian Tracy has a litmus test, and many of us know who Brian Tracy is. Things are important to the extent, and I want you to get this, things are important to the extent that they have important consequences. Okay? Things are important to the extent that they have important consequences. Things are unimportant, though, to the extent that they have no important consequences. Okay? Things are only important if they've got important consequences, but they're not important if they don't have important consequences. When faced with a choice, ask yourself, what would be the consequences of each option? Want to spend an hour studying or watching the new series on Netflix? Okay? What would be the consequences of each option? Netflix can sometimes be a better choice, but it helps to put things in perspective. Okay, what's going to be better for you? Studying for an hour or watching Netflix for an hour? Okay, it's the consequences really that make the difference. Let me give you another example. Want to maintain your apartment by yourself or to pay a cleaning service? What would be the consequences of each option? Okay, so you want to take care of your place, or you could pay a cleaning service to get it. Okay, very interesting. The choice can be different for different people. An aspiring filmmaker may have a legitimate reason for choosing Netflix. Okay. Personally, cleaning your own apartment can be relaxing and nourishing, even if the economies of the economics of hiring a cleaning look compelling, but you are earning a higher hourly rate. So very interesting. This is where you need the basic idea of who you are, what are your goals, values, and aspirations. Okay, so you've got to just kind of think of what what are the consequences of you doing certain things? Could it benefit you by watching Netflix for an hour? Well, yeah, if you've got a reason to watch Netflix. If it's just to vegetate, maybe the consequences were you were working really hard that week, and you decided that I need to refresh so I can download. Okay, that could be. Number 2, flip defeat into victory. So the Russian general managed to turn Russia's defeat into a historic victory by recasting the problem in a wider context. Losing Moscow need not mean losing the war. Despite the symbolic meaning attached to the Kremlin, the churches, the priceless treasures that have been stored in the city for centuries, the outcome of the campaign was ultimately determined by the strength of the remaining armies. So many of you probably have heard the story about when Napoleon invaded Moscow. The biggest problem with Napoleon is that he invaded the city and he knew, I gotta get Moscow. But he invaded it during the winter time, and Moscow winters are notorious for being the worst. He ended up having to retreat, and he ultimately lost the war. So, was it beneficial for the Kremlin to fall and for Moscow to fall? Why, sure, because ultimately they wanted the war. Okay, so sometimes that makes sense. So turn a negative into a positive. If you can adopt this results-oriented perspective, many of your personal defeats may be flipped into victories as well. Few events in a human's life are absolutely good or absolutely bad, and it usually takes many years to recognize in retrospect what role a particular encounter did to your story. So sometimes you have to look at things and you go, well, right now it kind of sucks, and but you don't know what is going to happen years from now. Who knows? You can look at things right now and go, okay, it's absolutely bad, but in reality, it's not. There's nothing in life that is absolutely bad, and there's nothing in life that's absolutely good. Sometimes it might take a few years for that to play out. So you have to kind of look at that in that context. Therefore, we have every reason to look for the good in the things that happen to us. So always look for that silver lining. And we talked about this last week, is that we're always looking for the silver lining in everything. It's a practical attitude, far from baseless, positive thinking. After all, if something unfortunate has happened to you and you find good sides in this circumstance, you will then be better positioned to take advantage of those good sides. And also, I think it's just a healthy way of looking at life, that you're always looking for the good in situations. You can't always look for the bad in situations. Walking around that pessimistic attitude, it's just, we talk about the power of, what is it called? The law of attraction, that will tend to draw things towards us. Excuse me about that. We'll tend to draw towards us things that are very compatible. Oh, excuse me, like my puppy who just walked into my office just now. And we tend to draw towards us the things that we dwell on, the things that we think about. And so we tend to look at, so you can all see my puppy here that's over up to the side here. He came into the office just because he really loves it in here. Hopefully he won't start barking now. So we want to look for the positive in everything because we will tend to draw towards us those positive things. So let me give you an example. Perhaps you have, say you have noisy neighbors that are affecting your productivity. So you've got neighbors that are outside of your house, and they're just as noisy as they can possibly be. Instead of just looking at them as being just noisy neighbors, maybe you want to look for the silver lining, the positive thing in this, to gain a victory in the situation. Like perhaps you are too serious about life and can learn how to have more fun. Okay, like right now, I love to be in my office by myself to do my podcast, but every once in a while the puppy walks in, and he kind of distracts me, and he kind of lightens up things a little bit. Maybe I'm a little too serious in life. Maybe I should have a little more fun in life. Maybe I should have him in here all the time so I can have a little more fun during the podcast. Maybe you could, those noisy neighbors, maybe you could just join them every once in a while. Walk over to them and say, hey guys, let's do something together instead of you being so upset about it. Like my neighbors, my Caribbean neighbors, I've got some neighbors that are from Puerto Rico, and they sit up on their balcony and they listen to music loudly. Not just loudly. And so instead of, you being upset because you walk by, and it sounds, raucous, maybe go over, and maybe I should go over and say, hey, let's party. Sorry about that. We're going to decline that. Sorry about that, folks. And once again, I just get phone calls all the time. Perhaps you only want to be productive while instead procrastinating on social media. Okay? Perhaps you only wanted to be productive while instead procrastinating on social media. Now that your procrastination has been interrupted, stop, acknowledge this much greater obstacle to your productivity. Okay? So, sometimes you jump on social media. You probably shouldn't. You have things to do. Well, but you just recognized, hey, jumping on social media is probably not the most productive use of my time. All right, let's go on to the next one. And we're talking about thinking big, trying to think bigger in life. Ask for advice. Ask for advice. Both Napoleon and General, and I never say his name because I'm going to destroy his name. His name is actually Kutuzov. Okay. Had trusted advisors to discuss their affairs with. In general, getting different perspective or several can only help inform your understanding and lead to better decisions. Just ensure that the people giving you advice are competent in a particular area or experience is needed. Paying money for advice can also be a wise investment. Lawyers, tax accountants, medical doctors spend years learning how to assist people like yourself in living more successful, more fulfilling lives. A quick legal consultant can save you a fortune down the line or even keep you out of big trouble. A medical checkup. Oh, thank you. Somebody closed my door. A medical checkup can uncover potential issues and help keep you healthy and achieve and active and keep your life living for many, many years. Even big, complex dilemmas on your job or in your romantic relationships can be tackled more effectively by partnering up with a coach or therapist, or, of course, with the help of a wise friend. Okay? So ask advice. There's nothing wrong with asking advice. We all need advice on occasion, and especially people who are experts. People who are experts can tend to give us the greatest advice that we need, and potentially saving us a lot of time in life. Okay? Number 4, beware of biased advice. Okay, it's really, this is probably one of the biggest ones about thinking big, is being aware and be aware of biased advice. Many imperfect decisions occur in response to an imperfect piece of advice that you chose to act on. That advice often comes from a biased party. Okay, people who have already got a slant on life already can tend to give you advice that you probably, that will skew the actions that you take. For example, we are often encouraged to buy something that we supposedly need. Okay, we always get advice. Hey, you should buy this. You should buy that. You should buy this. You should buy that. When probably we probably shouldn't. Protect like this, like protecting your skin from harmful UV rays by using a special lotion, fortifying your health by taking multivitamins, connecting with your friends by sending them elaborate gifts, brightening your weekend by consuming a delicious pastry. Become more productive by getting a faster computer. Okay, all of them sound great. They really do. However, most purchases are unnecessary. Okay, some, such as sunscreen, do have legitimate reasons to do it. Okay, but you know what? You can do the same thing by just putting on more clothes. Okay, or just staying out of the sun during certain parts of the day. Multivitamins. Okay, they only make a difference to a small group of people. A lot of times, those multivitamins, you can overcome those by eating healthy and working out. It makes a lot more sense when you do that too. And here's the biased advice that you get. Advertisers of those benefits inevitably want to narrow your focus in order to overstate the importance of their product. Okay? Generally, people who want you to buy something say, oh, you need this. You have to have this. If you don't buy this particular thing and you don't use our particular product, it's just not going to work out for you. Just like you may die if you don't get this. They frequently present it as the only solution to your problem. After all, okay, your skin could be protected. Okay, you could not have to be so upset about your state of your vitamin deficiency if you just eat right. You eat more healthy food. So, the bottom line, it is human nature to make rushed emotional decisions based on incomplete information, then regret those decisions later on. Okay? You can protect yourself from poor judgment by striving to attain the big picture when careful considerations are called for. Focus on the consequences of your decisions before considering how you feel about them. Play with the cards you've been dealt with, but look for opportunities in each situation and you will find them. Okay, you will find them. I think a lot of times what we do is we go, you know what, there's no way out. There's just no way out on this, and I can't do this, and it just doesn't work out for you. But you can. Ask knowledgeable mentors for advice. But beware of biased people who have an option, who have an opinion, but do not necessarily have your best interest in mind. It's probably one of the toughest ones to do. It's because sometimes we just, you ask the person who you think is probably the most knowledgeable, but they may not be the best person because they have a biased slant on their thinking. Yet remember, true big picture thinking comes from hard-won experience. Legendary military commanders, Napoleon Bonaparte, Mikhail Kutuzov, were both injured on the battlefield. Okay? Clear thinking comes from putting your big pictures to the test of reality. Okay? It comes from your big picture of reality. So I hope you got something about thinking bigger. Okay? You've got to think in order, especially nowadays. We're going into 2021. It's going to be even more important that you're thinking bigger and you're able to think about the consequences of what you're doing and not just kind of acting emotionally on things. Okay, so I told you that I was going to give you a bonus on this, folks, and we got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to give you a bonus because you stuck around for this thing the entire time. And we're going to go through this very quickly on how to think effectively. And we're going to give you, I've got 12 points here, but I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can because I think this will, it's great to have big picture thinking, but you have to think effectively also. So I'm going to go through these as quickly as I can, okay? Alright, here's number one. Identify and reverse negative core beliefs. Okay? I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. We're all influenced by past experiences, and when we attract negative labels to them, or we attach negative labels to them, we subsequently bring them into our present reality. Think effectively by reversing the negative into a positive and letting that play repeatedly in your thoughts. Okay? We all have that loop that keeps playing in our heads. Okay? I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. Okay? Those are core beliefs, and we've got to begin to reverse those in order to think effectively. Number two, powerful words trigger powerful thinking. I'm going to try this. Where's the power in that statement? Reword it. Instead of saying I'm going to try this, say I'm going to master this technique. Okay? It's really the way you're saying it. And my advice to you is eliminate the word try. I'm going to try to do something, or maybe. Okay? Be definite. Be a definite person. I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. Or, maybe I'll do this. No, that's so wimpy. Or when somebody says to you, I will try to be there, which means they're not going to be there. They're just not going to be there. Okay, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Okay, use powerful words. And what we'll do is today on our website we're going to list a bunch of really powerful words that you can use in your speech, and they will trigger positive thinking in your psyche. Number three, when it comes down to it, you are what you think. Okay? So, if you think you're a failure, you don't deserve success or happiness, or you're not good enough, your subconscious mind is going to steer you in the direction of what you are thinking. If you tell yourself, I'm a piece of flour, okay, your mind is going to put you there. It's going to. So you've got to whatever you think is what you are. Wherever you are in life, it's because you think that's where you deserve to be. So you've got to change your thinking. Number 4, when failure or crisis ensues, always think, what is the lesson here? And we've talked about this before, and this is going to be a running theme in a lot of what we talk about. What is the lesson here? What is the lesson I'm going to learn here? Remember, everything begins and ends with the brain-heart connection. Find a valuable lesson that you can profit or benefit from in every traumatic event. Okay, you fell on something. Oh, what did I learn from that? You failed at something. Okay, what did I learn from that? That's called failing forward. Instead of just falling backwards and go, oh, I just fell and I'm done. There's no lesson to be learned in that. We want to learn lessons in everything we do, so we don't repeat those same mistakes. We're going to repeat the same thing. Number 5. I think I've got time to do just a couple more. When you stop a project or think about it, make sure you start it again. Okay? When you start a project and you start it again. So many great ideas are abandoned because of hesitance or procrastination. When you find yourself at a standstill in the middle of a project and you're hesitating, go back to point 1. Find your belief that's stalling you, reverse it, add some power words, and dive back in. Don't just stop. It's so easy to begin a project and you're going, oh, I guess I'm going to grade this project, and get stuck on something and you just drop it. You just kind of walk away from it. That could have been the greatest thing that that was ever devised, that you dropped it. And I've done it a million times, so don't do what I did. Okay? Number 6, thinking too much promotes stagnation. So think like this, and this is interesting, and we'll end on this. This is a great 4-step process. Thought, idea, vision, action. A thought turns into an idea, which turns into vision, turns into action. Take your thoughts and form an idea. Really visualize the entire idea coming to fruition in your mind. Now take the steps to make that idea happen. Okay? Thought, idea, vision, action. Thought, idea, vision, action. When we come to a point in our lives where we have a hiccup in there, we need to begin that process again, over and over again. And we'll be writing an article on this, so we won't end on this. Okay? This is a great way to get ideas from an idea state or from a thought stage to real action. So we'll actually write an article about this. It's going to be pretty cool. Anyways, folks, we have run out of time. I thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We will be back again tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning, for Black Success Magazine podcast. If you like what you're seeing on YouTube, we really encourage you to subscribe to our page. Okay, Black Success Magazine podcast. If you like what you're seeing over here on Facebook, just send me a note and say, hey, Sherm, thank you much for doing what you're doing, and just a little word of encouragement is always helpful. We really encourage you to go to our website, blacksuccessmagazine.com, and check out the articles, leave us a comment, especially go to the blog page. Okay, the blog page is where we got a lot of our newest articles, and we'll be putting up a bunch of videos, that kind of stuff. So it's always fun. It's always something new. So, anyways, we will be back tomorrow, folks, for Black Success Magazine, the podcast. I'm your host, Sherman Ray. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye. We'll see you later, folks.